Thank goodness we have the Buffalo Bills to save us from this tryptophan-induced trio of Thanksgiving games. Will they make the Niners' job that much more difficult to cling to playoff life?
Philadelphia and Baltimore, a possible Super Bowl matchup. The winner of this game could very well be seen as a favorite to head to the big game.
Another AFC North grudge match ahead for the Steelers this week. Can they put the nail in the coffin of the Bengals as they head into the jungle?
Vikings and Cardinals. Danny Dimes finds a new home in Minnesota. But between these two teams, the winner could have an inside track to the playoffs.
Don't blink, you might miss our reaction to this year's NFL Thanksgiving games, but I guess we'll give them their due and then move into the better slate on Sunday. Sunday Scaries with Bucks McGee starts right now.
Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving Day parade, turkey, stuffing, things to be thankful for. This slate of games, not so much. Not so much. Nutmeg. After the first game, I think it's all gone downhill, and I'm not thankful for it. How are we doing, sir? Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Bucks McGee. Yes, many things to be thankful for this year, and like you implied, NFL football was not one of them today.
No, clock management wasn't one of them. Drew Lock wasn't one of them. It's just nothing much to be thankful for.
True legend, although not so legendary.
No, Barney Stinson would not call him legendary.
Yes. So I guess we'll touch on them very, very briefly anyway. Uh,
Let's roll.
I guess the Bears was the probably the lone bright spot of these games, but even that one didn't leave much to grasp at. I kind of wondered how the Bears were even in this for most of the game. Detroit just like in a rare Detroit sighting on thanks a rare instance of a Detroit sighting on Thanksgiving, they didn't exactly bring their A game.
No, they they were allergic to the red zone. They were able to drive between the 20s no problem. Once they got to the red zone, it was like they couldn't score after the first touchdown. It was just really weird. So, it was field goal, field goal, field goal. Chicago hung around. You get to, mid fourth quarter, you're like, there's a chance if you're a Bears fan. And then, of course, the Bears' favorite time of the game, the last 2 to 3 minutes,
Yeah,
and we know what happens.
the nightmare window continues.
I don't get it. I don't know what they were thinking. That coaching staff, they've signed their death warrant. It's a wrap. And after the game, how can you say, "Oh yeah, that's exactly how we wanted to handle it"? How do you say, "Yeah, that's how we wanted to handle it"? You let 30 something seconds just fall off the clock, and you don't even get a chance to tie the game. Mess.
And the other thing that kind of is an extra salt in the wound is the fact that I think this what was the statistic? The Lions had their first fumble at home, uh, maybe overall or at least by a running back. Maybe it was just by a running back, but their first fumble at home since last Thanksgiving. So they really couldn't get it right, and the Bears couldn't take advantage of it. Like it's just,
No,
I guess,
this
I guess the Lions, when things break for you, they break for you.
it's like the Lions were kind of like, here, we'll let you hang around. Let's see if you can do it. And then basically the Bears just dropped the ball, just screwed the pooch. And I just think it just starts at the head coach. They have to clean house. If upper management doesn't see that, then I don't know what to tell you, Bears fans. But again, a chance to win, turn this season around, which is pretty much, I don't know how much really of a shot you guys have at this point at a playoff spot. Just bad last 3 minutes of the game.
Rapid fire Thanksgiving continues because that's all these games deserve. And this one, I'm really glad I was fixing supper during this time because I don't know if backup Bull could do it justice heading in because, of course, the Giants were down to their third string quarterback after letting Danny Dimes go, and Tommy Cutlets was banged up. And, of course, the Cowboys are riding it out with Cooper Rush.
Yeah, the guy who was the third string, who should have been the second string,
Mm-hmm.
and so it just yet again, Giants defense keeps them in it for a little bit. They show a little bit of life on offense, but it was just the fact that on paper, actually, Dallas had Micah Parsons. If Micah Parsons doesn't play in this game, very well could have been something different. Micah Parsons was definitely the X factor in this game. The run game for Dallas, made an appearance. Brendan Cook scores, aka the Archer. So just show the Dallas. I mean, New York is inept, just can't put it together. And even without Dak and most parts, Dallas should have won this game, and they did.
The bright spot shining out for the Cowboys a little later than they probably should have.
Yeah, seriously. But, CeeDee Lamb's banged up. So it was funny. When they were doing the turducken leg there, Micah Parsons is like, oh, we're ready to turn this around. People are counting us out. Yes, they're still going to count you out because your offense is anemic. And back does tip the scale defensively a bit. But when you face a high-powered offense, you guys are still going to lose. But hey, you won on Thanksgiving. I'll give it to you.
This is, I will say, to the point of Micah Parsons, this was the second week in a row where I actually noticed him on the field doing things because he took a while to really come back and get his wheels back under him. So I don't think it's gonna matter, but I mean, I guess especially for his ambitions of a contract extension, it's good to see that happening.
Yeah, unless he's going to start playing offense. If he wants to be a running back or maybe a tight end and help the offense, then okay, there you go. But unfortunately, they actually, they had injuries on the defensive side tonight. This team is going to limp into the end of the year, and then they're going to pay him his money, and then they're going to have absolutely nobody on that team whatsoever. Still not going to be able to run the ball, and this team is going to be worse going into the future. So there it is.
At least the Chiefs only have to restructure Patrick's contract. The Cowboys are going to have to restructure like 4 people's contracts every year.
That, the ball boy, the Gatorade technician, because they just pay everybody.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know. I mean, I guess the easy answer is because he wanted his release, but I still don't necessarily think it was probably the smartest thing to let Danny Dimes go. I don't know. Your season's not exactly that great. I don't know how this makes it any less, but way worse.
Well, I'd be honest. I wouldn't want to play for a team where one week I'm entrenched as the starter, and then next week I am the scout team free safety. So yeah, I'm gonna feel kind of disrespected, and yeah, you take a lot of it on yourself because they drafted you so high, and you were supposed to be the guy, and it hasn't panned out. But at the same time, you can't blame Danny Dimes all the way. They shouldn't have gave him that contract. You should have just let him walk.
Yeah.
Should have let him walk. We can rehash this whole thing, but we know what the Giants have done. So if I'm Danny Dimes, yeah, I'm getting out of there. And so now you got Tommy Cutlets and Drew Lock. Good luck.
And it's not quite Russell Wilson level, but it's pretty nice to have 20 mil owed to you and be able to go play for a contender or wherever you want.
Yeah, he's going to sit there. Depending what happens with them, if they can clinch early enough, he'll probably get some time, put out some tape, and some team might sign him in the offseason.
And the third game on Thanksgiving. Now, the last time the Dolphins went to a cold weather situation where it was snowing, it didn't turn out that way. And this one, not exactly turning out that well either. Packers keeping it rolling.
Yeah. So basically, A for effort, Dolphins fans, but I don't know. I don't see you guys making the playoffs. I just don't know if you guys have it. I think that loss of Tua, beginning of the year and such, really, hampered you guys. And Green Bay is just doing what they're doing. They've got to win games. They're not going to win their division, so they've got to play for basically the fifth seed.
To that point, do you think that they're a little bit of fool's gold, the fact that they were so inconsistent, and now the Packers look like almost world beaters a little bit the last few weeks? Is this maybe some false hope for Packers faithful?
I don't know if it's false hope. They have talent. It's just they have to play consistent football. They have to play a full 60 minutes consistently. They'll play a half where they're great, and then the second half, it's like, what happened? We forgot we forgot how to tie our shoes. So they've got the talent. They've got to be able to catch balls. Like they've got, I can't blame Jordan Love because he's thrown the ball extremely well. When you got guys like Watson and such just dropping passes in your hands, there's a problem there. So they've just got to shore that stuff up because come playoff time, like I said, they're not winning the division. They're probably at best, can shoot for the fifth or sixth seed, but everything is so jumbled in the NFC, you don't know. So they just have to win.
And they have the right mix. I mean, Jacobs is playing well at the right time. The defense is very young. If they could just stay consistent like they have in the last few weeks, and like you said, the Packers have plenty of weapons. Either it's Watson, Reed, Kraft, Wicks. I think I'm missing somebody there, but they've got Jordan Love does have a lot of guys out there to throw.
They've got talent. There's talent on this team. They just have to catch the ball. So we'll see what happens, but Green Bay's handling business, and that's what you do. You win the games you have to win.
So this game is not a Thanksgiving game, but I can't imagine it's going to be any more competitive than these three. The Raiders go into Arrowhead on Black Friday. I mean, there's got to be a mercy rule in this one, right? Even with the Chiefs' offensive struggles this year.
You know what? We joke about this, but this could be the game where Aiden O'Connell all of a sudden lights it up a little bit, just enough. Because the Raiders last year, beat the Chiefs, and it was this feel-good kind of story last year. I still feel the Chiefs are going to win. Like, they can't let the Raiders beat them. They just can't. But it would make for some great TV, mid-afternoon TV, 3 o'clock, good times, But, yeah, that's something if you're home, play it in the background. I'll be at work. I'll have it on my phone. I'll be like, okay, there you go. Maybe the Chiefs will put up like 28 points.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see a 30-point, game, and then all of a sudden you're going to hear the Chiefs' offense is back. It's magical. It's magical.
It's from Kirk Herbstreit this time. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe it'll be 21-0 halfway through the second quarter. I'm like, oh, okay. Guess I don't need to worry about that anymore.
It's like, okay, so let me just see what you're going to flash on the screen for, Black Friday sales, because that's what you do during this game. So that's what I'll be watching for.
Yeah. So let's talk about the real football on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And this one I'm actually kind of excited for Sunday night. And there's been some duds. There's been some duds on Sunday night lately. But this one I'm excited for because, I hope Brock's back because that was a little bit of an embarrassment last week when he didn't play. But if he's back, I don't necessarily want to say it's last ditch because the NFC West is such an unknown, but it's their chances at playoffs are not going to look that great if the Josh Allen show embarrasses them.
No, not at all. Basically, what's happening is NFC West. The only team coming out of there from the playoffs is the division winner. So basically, the Niners are hoping everybody else loses this week, and they walk right back into the thick of it. So they have to win. They absolutely need this game. Buffalo, I think they still need it, but it's one of those things where it's like it's almost like a name recognition kind of game. Okay, we beat the Niners, even though they're limping. We put the nail in the coffin of the Niners. We don't care. We're gonna beat whoever comes in front of us. We got to do what we need to do. We can't have a letdown. So this one is more of, I think, important for Buffalo in the sense of you can't have a letdown. Purdy's should be back, might be still a little off. The Niners are still formidable. You got to handle business.
Yeah, it's kind of like forget the fact that the Niners have struggled so much this year. Think of them in the sense that they're the same team from the Super Bowl last year. Like they've
Exactly.
more or less returned the exact same team, and the only player missing is Ayuk for injury. That's almost how the Bills have to treat this. Like treat this like it's the same team that narrowly lost the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they absolutely have to. You have to go in there thinking, oh man, this team is the best team in the NFC. We need to play our best. We don't want to lose this game. This could be a game that's going to showcase us and show that we are a legit threat in the AFC. Yeah, they have to play that way.
Yeah, now I know Bosa's still a little bit banged up, so how much do you think his potential absence, if he were to miss another game, would affect what Josh Allen sees out there as
Oh,
far as his
it helps.
ease of putting up 35.
He's not going to feel the pressure. He's going to feel comfortable sitting in the pocket. He's not going to have to put on the cape and run for 15, 20 yards unless a play totally breaks down. But he'll feel confident. He doesn't have to worry about Bosa coming down on him. He can sit in the pocket and deliver the ball.
Based on what you saw from when the Bucks played San Francisco, does Buffalo's offense match up well with that secondary and what they kind of can throw at Josh Allen?
Yeah, I think Buffalo's secondary is solid. Their defense is good. There aren't many really big names, but they play well. Niners defense is beat up. So I think Josh is going to be, I don't want to say be able to do whatever he wants, but I think it's going to be easier for him, a little bit easier for him. The run game, of course, is going to be key for both teams. I think Buffalo has to, kind of course, keep the reins down on CMC and Mason, kind of keep them, at bay and force Brock to throw. Brock's coming back from an injury, get some pressure on him, force him to throw. It sounds stupid, but I think Buffalo has the coverage guys to handle the tight ends and receivers, and just let's see if Brock's back.
Yeah, the Packers had a fairly easy job of guarding CMC last week because they didn't have to really devote too much uh, at resources at guarding the pass.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's maybe that's something similar here where Buffalo can kind of load the box a little bit more with Brock coming off the injury, or do they still kind of have to balance it out a little bit?
Well, I also know Trent Williams was injured too, so I don't know if he's back this week.
Huge.
If he's not back this week, then hey, send the dogs. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I was gonna say.
Send them and see what happens. I think Buffalo would be able to withstand a flurry from the Niners. No one's scared of the Niners anymore, but like we said at the beginning, it's got to be a mindset for Buffalo to make sure that they, their statement game.
What kind of percentage would you put on the Niners to actually pull something off and look like the Niners that we haven't seen yet?
I'll give them a 50-50 shot.
Oh, that close.
They still have weapons, like I said, the big issue is going to be if Trent Williams is back and how Brock is feeling. But they've been in these kind of situations. They know how to win games. You've got to give them, you still have to give them their respect. We can't, we said they're on life support. We can't toss them to the side totally. You still got to give them their respect. But we also need Buffalo to show that they've got that killer instinct that, okay, you see the wounded animal, you put it down.
I don't know what the forecast is, but I'd love to see a snowstorm, a snowball up there.
Oh, man, that would be great.
Although that would probably bail out Purdy off the injury because he could just rely on either McCaffrey or Mason. Which I don't know. I mean, in that situation, I don't know how much. I mean, McCaffrey's looked fine, but is it worth burning him out in a snowball? Maybe you just kind of balance it. If it's snowing, obviously, if it's snowing,
It's life support, man. They'd have to burn him. You can't sit there and say, oh, we got to rest them, because if they lose this game and everybody else in the division wins, then it's like, okay, we're 2-3 games behind, and I don't think they've got enough in the tank to make that up.
Yeah. The probably the best game this weekend is the Battle of the Birds. Uh,
Oh yeah.
Philly heads into the Mid Atlantic, and Baltimore had a pretty convincing win. Older brother beating younger brother on Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Philly's been surging lately. So I think this is two teams coming at each other in probably, I don't want to say Baltimore's at the best they've been all year,
Mm-hmm.
but at least what have you done for me late in a sense of what have you done for me lately? And Philly's obviously coming in probably the best they've looked all year. So this is probably a pretty good representation of what these teams could look like in the postseason.
Basically, what this is these are two teams that are in all likelihood considered the second best in their conferences. So,
Yeah,
let's be honest. So, everyone pretty much would say that, it's a Chiefs Lions collision course for a Super Bowl if you were to ask
right.
them today. So, if you were to say, okay, what two teams would replace those two right now, you'd probably say Philly and Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
So now, it's a situation of, okay, these guys are going to, they're going to meet. Whoever wins is probably gonna look one of the top 2-3 elite teams in the league. The other one may still be around or a second tier, but it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out because this still could possibly be a Super Bowl matchup.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they certainly have avoided the injury bug for all intents and purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and at one point this season, Derrick Henry was playing at MVP level, but
Mm-hmm.
the buzz lately, and I think it's completely justified, that Saquon Barkley has is going to eat up a lot of the MVP vote because Jalen Hurts has been so inconsistent this season. Philly's success, I don't think it's unfair to say, rests entirely on Saquon Barkley.
Oh,
Do
there's
you
no
think?
doubt. There's
Do you
no
think
doubt.
Yeah. Do you think Baltimore, which we have lamented this season at times, a few times, for
Mm-hmm.
their defensive play, do you think they have any chance to slow down Saquon Barkley?
I don't know. I don't know if their defense can handle it. I really don't. I think this is going to end up being one of those games where it's kind of score for score at the beginning, and then I think the Eagles take over. I really think right now the Eagles may be a better team, and it is because of Saquon Barkley. If the Eagles didn't have Saquon Barkley, the Eagles are nowhere as good as they are. That's fact. So it's one of those things where Baltimore's defense really has to show up. Like from this point on, they have got to be a solid defensive unit, and I don't know if they can stop Saquon because no one has stopped him so far.
No, and it's either and like the best teams have done against him is like a moderate, I don't know what, 875, 80 yards. Like that's like the most teams have held him to. Every other game he's going 130, 150. Last week 300 all-purpose yards, whatever it was.
Yeah, 300 exactly, 300 all purpose. He's just that good. He's that much of a difference maker where now teams have to say we have to account for him every time he's on the field, and that opens up everything else for Philly. So I don't know if you stretch Baltimore's defense like that if they can hang.
Now, Jalen Hurts has been inconsistent this year, but so has Lamar Jackson. Maybe not to the
Mm-hmm.
extent of Jalen Hurts, but certainly in his own right.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and Philly's defense, I think, as the season's gone along, has gotten a little bit better and a lot more
Mm-hmm.
balanced. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's kind of Lamar's at least tried to pass a lot more. He hasn't been so quick to just run out and burn people with his athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's kind of the I don't know. I don't know if you want to take this from a
It's the same game plan
play.
we talk about every week. And you know what I'm going to say? Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry. Start
Don't
him
even
off.
let Lamar. Don't even
No,
let Lamar try to do
no,
this.
let Lamar do it. But here's the thing: Derrick is still in his prime. See what he can do. If he's able to sit there and really beat down, the front there of Philly, and open things up, then let Lamar do what he does. But don't turn it into, okay, Lamar's going to sit in the pocket and throw, 30, 35 times. And then all of a sudden you're down 2 or 3 scores late in the game. And all of a sudden you want to have the Derrick Henry show. Like it needs to be balanced. And you have to force Philly to bring somebody, just like if you flip it around, when it comes to Baltimore's defense, they're going to, they're going to have some more bodies in the box for Saquon. Philly's going to have to do that for Derrick Henry. Make sure they honor him, and then it's going to make it come down to the quarterbacks. If it comes down to the quarterbacks,
I'd go edge Lamar.
I would go.
Unless it's at the 1 yard line, Jalen Hurts hasn't done anything to impress me this year.
Here's the thing: Baltimore secondary hasn't been the best, and AJ Brown is healthy, and those guys. So I don't know if they can. I don't know if they can handle them. These teams almost mirror each other in where their strengths are. If you really think about it,
eerie ways.
Tight end, wide receiver, running back. So it's gonna be who makes the first mistake, who's consistent, in the run game. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna come down to a couple plays. I think this game's gonna be close, extremely close.
The tiebreaker between them to me is the defense.
No, it is, but it's going to be a question of whose defense is not tired in the fourth quarter. Are the Eagles tired because Derrick Henry's beat them down for 130 yards, or is Baltimore's defense tired because Saquon's run for $160, $170, and they just can't handle him? This is what it comes down to. So something's going to have to give with one of these defenses.
If they can contain Derrick Henry, the Phillies secondary is solid, but their strength is certainly up front. If they can contain Derrick Henry, does Lamar have a better chance of airing it out, or does he have a better chance of doing his scrambling routine?
It's probably going to be the scrambling routine. He's going to have to extend plays with his legs, because then at that point, depending, if a play breaks down, the secondary, someone's going to leak up. They've got speed, at the wide receiver. Even at tight end, you might see some, two tight end sets or whatever. They've got some speed, stretch the field. So I think it's Lamar's legs.
It's not often we get a game of the week in the 4 o'clock time slot that actually lives up to billing this season, but this one might actually do it.
Hopes and dreams.
What would be your pick? Just a flip a coin situation, or are you definitively leaning one way?
Right now, I'm going Philly, and the only reason is Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. I will be pretty impressed, and equally impressed and surprised if Baltimore's defense actually is any kind of productive against him.
Yeah, that's just the question. If their defense was a little better, then I would probably lean Baltimore. But right now, they've got to prove it. Baltimore's defense has to prove that they can contain them.
Two teams looking for a huge rebound off of last week. The Chargers and the Falcons. We've gone over this before. How the Chargers don't really air it out all that much. They're very much Harbaugh, Michigan. But is Atlanta's defense, based on the roller coaster of a season they've had, is that the type of opportunity that maybe Herbie can get some find some mistakes and slip some plays in there?
Oh yeah, definitely, because the Falcons defense, they don't get sacks. They really don't get pressure. So this can really work to their advantage. The run game is going to be interesting, for the Chargers. Gus Edwards, I think, is starting this week. So it's going to be interesting to see how the run game turns out. But no, this could be a game where Herbie, puts up, 330, could, make it a throw game. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, the Falcons, they're going to have to get pressure. They're going to have to get sacks. If they can't get to Herbie, then yeah, it could be a long day for them.
That was and Atlanta, was that the Denver game last week? That was the Denver game, right?
Atlanta. No, I thought was Atlanta on bye last. No, Atlanta wasn't on bye.
Oh, you're right. They were on bye. You're right.
They were on
Okay,
bye.
so I guess technically it is a rebound, even though they had a bye in between. That's why
Yeah,
I was
they were
thinking their
bye.
last game was against Denver. It technically was, but it was 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I mean, neither one of those. Which of those losses to you looks worse going into this game? The Chargers dropping that emotion-packed Monday nighter against the Ravens, or that awful Denver game the Falcons played in my eye. Like which one of those losses looks worse going into this game against each other?
On it, I I'm gonna say the Denver game because everybody's been so high on the Falcons that okay, this offense is ready to go, it's ready to fly, it's this, it's that. Now, mind you, Denver is playing incredible football. Give them tons of credit, but with the offensive weapons that the Falcons have, and Denver's defense is solid, they still should have been able to do more than they did.
And who to which team is a victory here worth more? Because the Falcons, they seem to have a little bit of a leg up in their division, but if they keep losing games, Tampa's going to get right back into it. Carolina's only a game behind Tampa. New Orleans decided to win a couple games, so that division could still be up in the air. And the Chargers, their division chances are pretty much out the window the way Kansas City's played this year. So,
Yeah,
or at least the way they've won games, maybe not necessarily the way they play, but at least the way they've figured out how to win games. So they are like gripping to a wild card, and that's their only shot.
yeah. The Chargers are definitely a wild card team, but they're playing well enough where if they were to lose, they would still be okay because that back half of the AFC is a mess.
Yeah,
Let's be honest. It's all over the place. The Falcons can't lose because right now the Bucks are a game and a half behind. Game and a half behind.
yeah.
So and then with the two division losses, so it's one of those things where the Falcons have started to drop. The Bucks have started to rise with getting everybody back healthy. So the Falcons can't make a mistake. And if you look at the schedules, the way they're built, the Bucks have the second easiest schedule in the league. There's a lot of things that the Falcons really need to, have to be ready for. They have to start playing their best ball. So definitely the Falcons, I believe, really need this game.
It's crazy how, and you could I'd say the same thing about my Colts with Houston. It's crazy how a team can lose both divisional games to the team ahead of them, and they
Mm-hmm.
still feel a certain level of confidence that they could catch that team because the first place team is just playing either A so poorly or B so inconsistently or both.
It's one of those things where it's great to start out quick
Yeah,
and such, but then you've got to keep that up because sooner or later you're going to hit that rough patch, and if you don't straighten the ship out quick enough, those teams behind you are going to catch fire, and the next thing you know, that 2 or 3 game lead you had is gone.
yeah. I think hell would freeze over if we had to utter the words NFC South champion Carolina Panthers.
I'd be able to swallow that one better than if you
Oh.
told me Falcons or Saints. I have no ill will with the Panthers. Dave Canales is my boy. Love you, Dave. Love you, Dave. So I could deal with that. I could deal with that better than Kurt and the Falcons and
here,
that other team.
yeah, that other day. Here's your news clipping Super Bowl at Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's gonna be exciting to know that some other team will be using the Saints' locker rooms for the Super Bowl this year. I find it highly entertaining.
Oh, that's right. Yes, yes. That's
Yeah,
it's always a rewarding. It's always a rewarding feeling.
that don't happen in Tampa. We use our locker rooms. Just saying.
That's right.
Go Saints.
That's that's still
Oh!
crazy. That's still crazy to me that happened 2 years in a row with Tampa and then the Rams.
Right? It's those bookies, man. They know what's up.
That's right. It's all rigged. Um, talking about another team that needs a rebound performance. I mean, we were pretty high on the Cardinals, and we shouldn't have been high on the Cardinals going into the season, but they played their way into the conversation, and then they just completely the bottom fell out against the Seahawks. Now they go to Minnesota, who they started off incredibly hot, then they had a way big lull in the middle of the season, and they're starting to climb back into it. The offense is looking much more consistent. Sam's
Mhm.
obviously much more comfortable. Aaron Jones has been a workhorse this season. So is this bad? Is this kind of bad news bears for the Cardinals, especially with their division being what it is?
Well, let's be honest. We didn't really think they had anything to go. They weren't going to do anything. Let's be honest. They're
Oh,
a pleasant surprise. They are a pleasant surprise. Let's be honest.
mm-hmm.
So now this is the situation of now are they battle tested? Are they able to rebound enough to win? We're gonna find out. They're in a bad division, so it's up to them. If they don't pull it out and they don't make the playoffs, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. This is a rebuilding team. There were no expectations of them to go to the playoffs. It's like with Washington. When they were rolling and everyone was like, "Oh, here we go." It's going to be them and Philly for the division. Now they've started to drop off. So
Yeah, we
Arizona could back their way into the division. We don't know. So Minnesota, it's one of those things. They're a solid team. They hit their rough patch. They're turning it around. They're not going to win the division. So they're like Green Bay. They're playing for that 5th or 6th seed.
my favorite sports phrase: backing your way into fill in the blank.
Yep, and sometimes that's what happens. Right now, if you look, the NFC North, there's 3 teams there's definitely one team that's making the playoffs, winning the division. There are 2 others that, have a good shot at playoffs. That's just how good that division is. It just depends how those teams finish up.
Yeah, and to tie the two things together, you put the Bears in the NFC West, and they ready to be right in the thick of it.
Yeah, 4-8, they'd still have a shot at the title probably.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Oh man, the South is horrible. That's the worst division in football." Yeah, okay. Well, let me introduce you to the NFC West, where no one wants to win.
No. Even when you hand them on a silver platter, they still find a way to like, nah, we're good for this week. We'll get you back in a couple weeks.
We'd like to lose 3 games in a row and then somehow figure out a way mathematically to win 5 in a row and somehow win the division at like 6-11. We'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
figure it out. Minnesota, you're pretty confident that they're back on track, right?
I think they're solid right now. They've started to play well again. They're they're pretty healthy. I think they're a solid team. They just have to win. They're one of those teams that has the talent, but they just have to win.
I couldn't believe that based on the lull that they had in the middle of the season. I couldn't believe that they were still 9-2. Like I thought they had an extra loss or two in there.
Nope, they started out on fire. It was them in Kansas City, last remaining undefeateds and such. They were riding high. And that every week people were waiting for the pumpkin, aka Sam Darnold, to finally, lose the luster and be who they thought he was. And he's legit and he's gonna get himself a nice contract somewhere if it's not in Minnesota.
Yeah,
So
which actually to that point, that's an undersung storyline of signing Danny Dimes. We make fun of Danny Dimes all we want. It's certainly
mhm.
valid. It's certainly valid, but to bring him in, knowing or not knowing, but speculating that Sam could get a big deal somewhere in the offseason, it's pretty shrewd of Minnesota to do that.
I don't know if Minnesota is just saying, okay, we need some security in case Sam gets hurt. But yeah, you've got to look at this situation and say, okay, are you going to resign Sam in the offseason because you drafted, JJ McCarthy to be the guy, I assume. I don't think, you want him to sit for 3 or 4 years. And then you've got Danny Dimes here. So I'm
Well,
thinking I'm thinking Sam's going to get offered a contract and Sam's going to be like, I'm gone. Sam
yeah,
wants to be the guy. He's after this year and the way he's played, he's earned it. He's going to want to be the guy somewhere. So he's going to leave. So then your battle is what? JJ McCarthy and Danny Dimes?
yeah. Well, injury fear could be a very relevant concern for them. Not because Sam is fragile or anything, but because JJ was hurt this year. So
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
if misfortune befell the Vikings, they would need someone experienced back there so the season didn't completely derail.
Exactly, and Danny Dimes does. He can move with the ball. He can stretch plays with his legs. So I think it kind of helps that offense a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. He may not get any time at all. Like I
Yeah.
said, if they somehow clinch a playoff berth with a couple weeks left in the season, you might see a situation where Sam's playing a quarter, quarter and a half or whatever, and then you let Danny finish up.
Yeah. So any doubt that they won't roll in this one, and Arizona will just take the loss, but still obviously somehow be back in it because the division's a win.
Arizona's a scrappy bunch. This is a game where if you were to tell me Arizona somehow pulls it off, some last minute heroics kind of thing, I wouldn't doubt it. I don't know. I think Arizona's good enough to win, but you would think Minnesota is the more complete team and would figure out a way to kind of, put them to bed, sometime, late in the second half if it's a close game. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm not going to count out Arizona, but I think Minnesota wins.
And speaking of teams that absolutely need a win, although at this stage of the game it may not matter, that would be the Cincinnati Bengals. We haven't talked about them in a while just because they've fallen so far off.
That's because they've been locked up, and you know where they've been.
Oh, yes, yes. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
You know where they took the lease over from the Buffalo Bills last year.
They're officially a new resident. They're officially a new resident.
The
Okay.
resident of the hotel Um, Cincinnati's a hot mess. It is what it is. They'd have to win out. I honestly believe they have to win out to win any chance of a playoff berth. They have to win out. I don't think they can absorb another loss or two at all. So they'll put up points. I don't know. I think this game will be like a mid-20s type of game because Philly's defense is solid. Philly's defense, shows up and plays. Russ has been solid. I don't think since he's going to put up 40 points, I don't think it's going to be one of those games. I think Pitt's more complete, and Pitt will probably put the nail in Cincy's coffin this week. I really do. I think if Cincy loses this week, there's no way they bounce back. I can't see it.
And it's a tall task for them to even have hopes of winning here because Pittsburgh, even with that loss against the Browns, which was ugly, it's in the smell, but Pittsburgh still coming off the Ravens victory. They should have. That's a game they absolutely should have won. So they're still a team that's so far and above where Cincinnati is right now. That's an extremely I don't want to say insurmountable, but darn near close to it a task to pull off.
Oh yeah, they've got to be perfect. Like there really is no room for error for them. Like they can't lose another two games. Even losing, if they lose, like I said, if they lose this week, I think they're done. Maybe at that point it's truly life support and it's barely the beat, but they're still hanging around. But I don't think they have it. I think they've just gone through too much. We'll see what the offseason brings for them, but I think Pitt really just plays a tough enough game where they're going to just run on them and they're going to score because Cincy's defense is hideous as well. So they're the team that puts up 35, but gives up 38.
Is there um is there any chance, if not this game, down the road as the season draws to a close, is there any chance that Pittsburgh has more brain farts, for lack of a better word, like they did against the Browns? Based on how the Browns performed against that defense in inclement weather, is there any chance that okay, maybe this is the real Russ coming out to play now?
It could happen. It very well could. It's one of those things where this team is built to win now. Tomlin's got to keep the ship right, and keep Russ focused. Russ can't go running around thinking he's the Russ of Seattle, because he's not. He's made some great throws. He's played solid, but he's got to stay within the frame of what the offense is and go from there. They're going to have to seriously still rely on that defense. They're going to have to. So you just let it roll. They're playing unbelievably well, but Russ can't all of a sudden start to get the big head again like he did there in Denver, thinking that he was the man and couldn't be touched. Because I think if he starts to get that way, Tomlin will pull him. But I think they do have to, if you're going to use Fields, better usage of Fields, maybe get him in a couple more series than you normally do, so he gets a little warmed up, because it just seems like they throw him in random plays and just assume he's going to perform, and it doesn't work.
Very weird situation to platoon quarterbacks in, considering how quickly Tomlin pulled the plug on Fields the first time.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out and see. You believe Russ is the man, and he's the guy you're going to roll with, but as long as they can run the ball like they do, make smart passes, and that defense continues to perform, they should be able to handle Cincinnati and move on.
Yeah, I mean, do you think the defense will be okay? Because Jameis was able to cork a couple loose. And obviously Jamar Chase is better than anything. Even with Cincinnati struggles, Jamar Chase is still better than anything Cleveland has to throw to. So is any chance that defense kind of trips up a little bit?
I think their defense is fine. It wasn't like Jameis lit them up for 350 and like 4 touchdowns. It was a close game. It was in the snow. Things happen. Believe me, I give Cleveland their credit and I give them their flowers. They beat them. End of the day, they beat them. But I think this defense will bounce back because they probably were a bit embarrassed, and I think they'll be able to handle Cincinnati, because they're a bad team. They're great offensively. Defensively, they're horrible. They're an adequate team, and they'll be able to shut things down just enough.
Yeah, that's and of course the other side of this is, especially with Baltimore's situation playing the Eagles, who kind of wiped that. They've still got one game to play, obviously. If you kind of wipe that previous game out of your memory for a second, which of those two teams is the favorite in the AFC North right now?
Between Baltimore and
Pittsburgh and Baltimore, yeah.
Wow. Oof. Right now, I'll be. Oh wow. I'm gonna give a slight edge to Pitt, just because of the defense. I think the defense.
We are still not sold on Baltimore's complete.
I want to be, but their defense just, there just times where that defense just doesn't. It's either the defense doesn't show up or gives up some key plays, or they don't. The offense just doesn't. They don't run a good offense. It's like they put Derrick Henry and them on the bench, like we've talked about. They should be starting out with them, and you bring them in late, and it just doesn't work. The offense seems jumbled. So right now, if you're talking complete, I'm taking Pittsburgh because they play more of a complete game. I think their body of work is more complete if you watch their games.
And I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I feel like when I see Baltimore give up a big play and really get gashed, it's always in the secondary. That secondary is the weak link of the defense.
Oh, it is. The secondary's in rough shape. The linebackers are okay, but they'll give up some plays. It's just their defense is decent enough where, if they score 35 points or so, they might give up 28. So they're okay. But if it comes to the point where they're shootout, like serious shootouts, I don't know what their defense is going to do. Their secondary is really rough. So right now, I think Pitt is the more complete team at the moment.
Well, Bucks McGee, hopefully you filled up on Thanksgiving since you couldn't fill up on quality football this year. Sure, take us off air on Turkey Day heading into Week 13.
If we've learned anything from Thanksgiving, time management is very important. Make sure you follow your time from beginning to end. Dallas fans, don't take too much of this. You guys beat the Giants. It really doesn't mean anything. For you teams coming off buys, good luck next week. And yet again, Jets fans, there's no hope.